Elira had seen many worlds in her life, but Earth was the first one that felt loud. Not loud with sounds, though cities did buzz and shout, but loud with emotion. Humans carried their feelings openly, like bright lights flickering in every direction. To the Virith, her ancient starborn people, such emotion was considered wasteful, messy, and dangerous. They believed clarity came only when the heart was silent. That was why Elira was here, to observe Earth and judge humanity, to decide whether her people should approach or turn away forever. She arrived quietly, inside a small valley town surrounded by green hills and tall trees. Her technology hid her from sight. She could walk among humans and look like one if needed, but she usually stayed unseen, drifting like a gentle shadow at the edge of their world. At first, she believed her mission would be easy. Humans argued in stores, shouted in traffic, complained about problems they didn't fix. They wasted resources. They polluted air and oceans. They started fights over things that did not matter. Every day, Elira wrote her notes. Humans lack discipline. They act before thinking. They choose conflict too quickly. To her, humans were just as the Virith expected, unstable, unwise, unworthy. But then came the day she noticed the boy. He was sitting behind the school building repairing something with careful hands. Elira watched from a distance, invisible. The boy's name, she later learned, was Jonah, a 16-year-old with brown hair that was always a little messy, like he had run through wind and forgot to check it. Next to him sat an old telescope, scratched, dusty, and missing 2 screws. Most teenagers in this town played games on their phones or talked loudly in groups. Jonah did not. He was quiet, focused, and always thinking about something bigger than himself. He worked slowly, adjusting metal pieces, wiping the lens, testing the angles of the telescope. Many times the tool slipped or fell. Many times it did not fit. But every time, Jonah took a deep breath and tried again. Elira watched him for 2 hours that day, and for the first time in her mission, something changed in her. This boy did not act like he was being judged or measured. He did not rush or seek approval. He simply loved what he was doing. He loved the sky itself. That night, when the sky turned deep blue, Jonah carried the telescope to the small hill behind town. Elira followed, silent as moonlight. He looked up. The stars were dim in some places because of city lights far away, but he didn't mind. He pointed the telescope carefully, adjusting the focus, leaning forward. Elira already knew what the stars looked like close up. She had traveled among them. She had seen supernovas and dust clouds glowing purple and gold. She had stood on moons made of frozen glass. But watching Jonah look at the stars felt different. He did not want to own them, or conquer them, or use them. He only wanted to understand. He whispered softly to himself. Elira heard every word. If someone out there is watching us, I hope we look worth knowing. The sentence pierced something inside her, something she did not even know she still had. Worth knowing. Was that not what all living beings wanted? The next day, Elira studied Jonah more closely. She learned he lived in a small house with his mother, who worked long hours at a medical clinic. They did not have much money. Often, Jonah cooked dinner, cleaned the house, and walked to school alone. He was quiet at school. Not lonely exactly, just different. While others laughed about trends or complained about homework, Jonah doodled star maps in his notebook. He listened to music that sounded like old dream songs from Elira's own youth. And sometimes, when the sky was clear, he climbed the roof of the school to watch the clouds drift. He never seemed angry about his life. He never said the world was unfair. He simply kept going, gently, with patience. To the Virith, patience was sacred. Yet they believed humans lacked it. Jonah proved otherwise. One evening, Elira decided to observe him more closely. She disguised herself as a human, a simple illusion formed from bending light. She walked behind him as he headed toward the hill with his telescope. A storm was forming, thick gray clouds rolling in, wind pushing through the grass. Jonah looked up with a sigh. "Not tonight, I guess," he murmured. But he did not turn back home. He sat down on the hill anyway, telescope beside him, and waited. Illyra stood a few steps behind him, invisible once more. She wondered, why wait if the sky will only hide the stars? As if answering her unspoken question, Jonah spoke to the wind. The stars are still there, even when I can't see them. Something inside Illyra trembled. She had seen civilizations fall apart when they lost hope. She had seen planets where people gave up at the first sign of failure. But here was a human boy who believed in things he could not see. Faith, not in gods, not in rulers, but in possibility. Thunder rumbled. Lightning flashed just for a moment. And in that moment, Illyra's cloaking system flickered. The storm disrupted her field. Her form blinked into visibility, then disappeared again. Jonah froze. The wind howled. The cloaking flickered once more, and this time Illyra could not hide. She stood revealed, silver-white skin, eyes like soft starlight, her form tall and graceful, not frightening, not monstrous, just other. Jonah did not scream, he did not run, he did not fall back. He simply looked at her, eyes wide but calm, like someone who had finally found the answer to a lifelong question. For a long moment, the storm went quiet around them. Illyra expected the usual human reactions: fear, shock, disbelief. Instead, Jonah asked quietly, "Are you alone?" Not, "What are you?" Not, "Where did you come from?" Not, "Are you dangerous?" But, "Are you alone?" Illyra did not know how to answer. She had traveled galaxies. She had visited planets overflowing with life. She had spoken to beings made of crystal and light. But loneliness, yes, she knew loneliness. The wind softened, as if waiting with them. Illyra nodded once. Jonah's expression did not change. He simply scooted aside and patted the grass next to him. "You can sit, if you want," as though inviting a friend, as though she belonged. Slowly, carefully, Illyra sat. It was the first time in years she sat with someone, not near them. They did not talk at first. They just looked at the stormy sky. After a while, Jonah smiled faintly. "Even if the storm hides them," he said, "the stars never leave." Illyra felt something warm in her chest, unfamiliar, gentle, frightening. Hope. It was a simple word. But it was something the Virith believed humans could not hold. And yet, here it was, alive in this boy. Her mission was no longer simple. She had found something her people had forgotten. Humanity's strength was not in perfection. It was in resilience, curiosity, and the quiet refusal to stop dreaming. And because of that boy, Illyra realized Earth might not be a world to abandon. The storm passed during the night, leaving the world fresh and quiet. The grass on the hill glowed with drops of morning dew, and the sky slowly shifted from dark blue to a gentle pink. Jonah woke before sunrise, as he always did, ready to walk to school. But now everything felt different. He had seen her, a being not from Earth, a traveler from the stars. He almost wondered if it had been a dream. But the ground beside him still showed a soft mark where Illyra had sat, and the air still held something like quiet awe. Meanwhile, Illyra had retreated to her hidden camp in the woods. Her cloak system had repaired itself during the night, but she did not return to full invisibility. She simply sat thinking. She had lived for over 100 Earth years, watching worlds rise and fall. She had learned too much to be surprised easily, or so she believed. But Jonah had surprised her. Not because he saw her. Not because he wasn't afraid, but because of what he asked. "Are you alone?" That question was still echoing inside her mind. It was like a soft light in a dark room, small but steady. Illyra's mission had always been clear. Do not interfere. Do not reveal yourself. Do not form connections. Yet she had broken all 3 rules in a single night. She should have left Earth immediately. Returned to the stars. Reported the mistake, but her feet did not move. Instead, she found herself walking toward the town, slowly, carefully, As if her body already knew what her mind refused to say, she wanted to see him again. Jonah's day passed in quiet wonder. At school, his classmates talked about tests and weekend plans. But Jonah stared out the window thinking about Elira, her calm voice, her gentle presence, her eyes that held whole galaxies inside them. He wondered if she would return. Wondered if she trusted him. He wondered if she was watching right now, and he was right. From the edge of the campus, hidden against the sunlight, Elira watched Jonah. The other students looked rushed, tired, distracted. Their words overlapped in noise. But Jonah moved differently. He listened. He thought. He gave every action care and intention. He did not throw his time away. When school ended, Jonah walked once more toward the hill. He did not carry the telescope this time. He simply wanted to see the sky. Elira followed, silent. He sat down in the same place as before. The grass swayed gently around him. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. Elira stepped forward, no longer hiding. She did not know why, but it felt right. "How did you know?" she asked. Jonah smiled a little, not proud, not surprised, and just honest. "Because you didn't look like someone who wanted to leave." Elira felt something warm again, not like heat, but like understanding. She sat beside him. For a while, they said nothing. The sky above them held soft white clouds that moved slowly as if time itself was taking a breath. Then Jonah asked carefully, "Where are you from?" Elira looked up. "My people are called the Virith," she said. "We live among the stars. We travel between systems, learning from the worlds we see. My assignment was to observe Earth." Jonah nodded slowly. His voice was quiet but not weak. "So, you came to check if humans are worth knowing?" "Yes," Elira answered truthfully. "To decide whether humanity should be left alone or guided." Jonah looked down at his hands. "And what have you decided?" Elira hesitated. Her mission report had not changed yet, but her thoughts had. "I have not decided," she said softly. "Your world is loud, chaotic, beautiful, frightening, brilliant. I do not understand it." Jonah laughed, not at her, but with understanding. "Yeah, we don't understand it either," he said. Elira turned her head toward him. "Then how do you live?" Jonah thought for a moment. "By making small choices," he answered. "Trying to do better than yesterday, even if it's just a little." Elira had traveled galaxies, but she had never heard the universe explained so simply. Over the next days, Elira and Jonah met often, always on the hill, always when the world felt quiet. They talked about everything: stories, stars, music, questions that had no answers. Jonah told her how he fixed old machines because he liked giving broken things a second chance. Elira told him about moons made of crystal ice that played music when sunlight touched them. Jonah told her about how sometimes he felt alone, even in a crowd. Elira told him that loneliness was the one thing that existed on every planet. They grew close, not as something dramatic or romantic, but as two beings who finally felt understood. Elira began to see humanity differently. She saw a man planting flowers in front of a store, smiling every time someone admired them. She saw children sharing snacks even when they had little. She saw an old woman feeding birds at sunrise, just because they came to expect her. These were small things, quiet things, easily missed, but they were signs of care, tiny sparks of hope. Her reports changed. Humans feel deeply, sometimes too deeply, but that depth allows them to love, to create, to hope. They fall, but they rise. Again and again, but not everything she saw was gentle. One afternoon, Jonah was sitting alone during lunch. A group of boys walked by, loud, careless. They did not hate Jonah. They simply did not understand him. One boy laughed, pointing at Jonah's notebook filled with star maps. "Why do you always look at the sky?" he teased. "There's nothing up there." Jonah did not argue. He simply closed the notebook carefully. The boys left, bored. Elira watched from the distance. Her heart, or what served as one, tightened. On her world, knowledge was honored. Here, sometimes curiosity was mocked. Yet Jonah didn't stop. That evening, he returned to the hill with his telescope, the one he had finally repaired. Elira joined him. Together, They pointed the lens toward the sky. The stars glittered clear and bright. Jonah breathed out. Slow and peaceful. Beautiful, he whispered. Elira did not look at the stars. She looked at him. Yes, she said. Something inside her had changed completely. Jonah was proof of something her people had forgotten. Humanity's strength is not logic. It is not perfection. It is the courage to keep feeling in a world that can hurt. One night, Elira received a transmission from the Vireth. Her report deadline had arrived. The message was simple. Return to orbit. Deliver your judgment. Elira stood on the hill looking at the sky. The stars she had once seen as distant now seemed connected to her heart. Jonah approached quietly. You have to go, he said softly. He did not look away from the sky. Elira lowered her head. Yes. A long silence passed. The wind brushed the grass, gentle and sad. Jonah turned toward her. If you leave, will you come back? Elira wanted to say yes, but she did not know if her people would allow it. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Jonah understood anyway. He smiled. Small, quiet, and brave. Even if I can't see you, he said, I'll still look up. The same words he had spoken the first night. Elira felt her chest tighten. Not with pain, but with something deeper. She reached out, and for the first time she touched his hand. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. The stars never leave. The night sky stretched above Jonah and Elira like an endless sea of silver stars. But for the first time, Jonah did not look upward. He looked at Elira, afraid that any second she might fade away like morning mist. Elira stood very still. The message from the Vireth had changed everything. Her people wanted her to return to orbit and give her final judgment on humanity. Her words would decide Earth's future, whether her civilization would guide humans or leave them forever. She had always believed she would make this decision logically, calmly, with no feeling involved. But then she met Jonah. He had shown her something she did not know was missing in her life. Connection, not by blood or duty, but by choice. A connection born simply from understanding. Now she had to choose, stay, and be seen as an emotional traitor to her people, or leave, and break something fragile and precious that had just begun. Jonah did not pressure her. He simply sat down in the grass, leaving space beside him. A quiet invitation. Elira slowly sat. The air was cool. The grass brushed softly against their hands. The world felt still, as if waiting. Jonah spoke first, his voice steady, though his heart was heavy. You don't have to choose because of me. Elira looked at him. His eyes, usually filled with dreamy thought, now held something deeper. Sadness, yes, but also respect. You are part of the reason, she said honestly. But not the only one. Jonah blinked, surprised. Elira lifted her face toward the sky. When I first came, I saw Earth as chaos, noise, confusion. But now, I see the small things that hold this world together. She pointed gently toward the town below. The baker who wakes before sunrise to make bread. The mother who works long hours but still smiles at her child. The teacher who stays late to help a struggling student. These seem like small things, but they show something rare. Jonah listened quietly. Elira continued, her voice soft. Humans choose to care. Even when the world is heavy, you feel deeply, and sometimes it hurts you, but you still hope. That is something even my people forgot. Jonah looked down at his hands. Elira saw something in him then. Something the Vireth had never taught her to notice. Courage. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind. The courage to care. The next day, Elira walked into the forest. The sunlight filtered through tall branches, painting moving patterns on the ground. Her hidden ship was waiting, silent, silver, shaped like a smooth stone. She had to respond to her people soon. They would not wait forever. She touched the smooth panel on its surface. A soft blue light formed, asking for her answer. Report your conclusion, the ship's guidance AI said gently. Is humanity to be approached or abandoned? Alira closed her eyes. In her mind she saw children chasing bubbles in a park, a father tying his son's shoes before school, people sharing umbrellas during rain, Jonah smiling at the sky even when clouds hid the stars. She spoke slowly, clearly. Humanity is not perfect. They fail, they break, they fall. But they rise with hope. They seek understanding. They create beauty from nothing but dreams. There was a pause, deep, silent. She finished. Earth is worth staying with. Silence again. Then the ship responded. Your attachment compromises objectivity. Return immediately for reassignment. Alira's chest tightened. Reassignment. She knew what that meant. She would no longer be allowed to travel, not allowed to explore, not allowed to walk freely among the stars. She would lose everything she once thought defined her. And yet, the thought did not break her. Instead, she felt something like peace, because she had chosen this world, and the choice felt right. Alira stepped away from the ship. She did not look back. Jonah was waiting on the hill that evening, the telescope beside him. The sky was clear this time, stars shining brightly as if celebrating something unseen. Alira walked toward him. Jonah saw her, stood up, and searched her face for the answer. She nodded once. I'm staying. Jonah did not speak at first. He only breathed out, slow, relieved, like he had been holding the world inside his chest. Are you sure? He asked quietly. Alira stepped closer. Yes. I have seen many worlds, but I have never seen one that dreams as strongly as this one. Jonah smiled. Not big, not loud, just soft, warm, and real. They sat together. The night wind was gentle. It felt like the earth itself was calming with them. Your people, Jonah said after a while. Will they be angry? Alira thought for a moment. They will not understand, she admitted, but understanding is not always needed to make a choice. Jonah nodded. He looked at the stars through his telescope. Alira watched him, not the sky. Can you show me? Jonah asked, lowering the telescope. The things you've seen? Alira's eyes warmed. Yes, she said, but not by traveling across galaxies. I will show you slowly, through stories, through knowledge, through patience. Jonah listened, excited but calm. We will learn together, Alira added. Jonah looked at her with quiet joy. Then he asked something unexpected. What will we tell people about you? Alira smiled faintly. That I am someone who came to learn, someone who chose to stay. That is enough. Jonah laughed softly. Yes, that is enough. Life changed, but in gentle ways. Alira blended into the town, using her light-bending technology to appear human. She took the appearance of a quiet young woman with calm eyes and a peaceful presence. People found her polite, thoughtful, and kind, though a little mysterious. She did not need to explain everything. Some things are understood without words. She helped at the library. She listened to people with patience that felt endless. She guided conversations softly, helping others think more clearly without ever forcing them. And at night she and Jonah returned to the hill. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes they mapped stars together. Alira began teaching Jonah how to understand the sky, not just as distant points of light, but as living stories. Places filled with worlds and histories. Jonah began teaching Alira how to understand Earth not as a mission but as a home, full of small, meaningful moments. They learned from each other. They grew together. Their connection was not dramatic, not rushed. It was gentle, calm, deep. The kind of connection that does not fade. One evening, months later, Alira looked up at the stars. The Vireth ships were not there. They had left quietly, without returning. Jonah noticed the sadness in her eyes. You miss them, he said softly. Elira nodded. Yes, but I do not regret staying. Jonah didn't speak. He simply placed his hand near hers on the grass, not touching, but close enough to say everything without needing words. Elira smiled. Small and real. I once thought the stars were my home, she said. Jonah looked up at the sky with her. And now? Elira turned her gaze to him. Now I know the sky is big enough for more than one home. Jonah's smile grew. Warm, steady. And what made you stay? He asked. Elira's answer was simple. You did. Not because he was loud or heroic, not because he saved the world, but because he saw her, and cared, and believed.